Hello everyone, Chris Gambit here, Editor-in-Chief of the Photographer, bringing you another tutorial, and this time it's about white balance. Now, I know I talk about this a lot, but I feel like many photographers, they sit there and they work with auto white balance, and it doesn't necessarily give them the best colors that I feel they can genuinely get. Now, I'm working in Adobe Lightroom right now. This is the latest update as of February 14th, 2018. And this update is really just to see like how quick it is. Now, before I get into the actual tutorial, I want to remind you guys about the fact that we have a premium publication called Lenoir Image. And Lenoir Image is a black and white centered photo publication. We publish a couple times a month, and you get stories that you generally won't see anywhere else. Now, when you subscribe, there are three different tiers. There's one for $15 a year, one for $40 a year, one for $100 a year, which is really affordable in my opinion. And then you also get these really cool free presets that I really like. So you should check it out whenever you get a chance. Take a look. I'm sure many of you will like it, and according to our recent reader survey, many of you are actually really into black and white photography. So if you want some new presets to play with, go ahead and sign up. $15 a year for just the content and the presets. I mean, it's a real no-brainer, and you'll get really good stories that you won't really get anywhere else. So yeah, anyway, now let's actually get into the editing process. A lot of people shoot in auto white balance, and I mean, overall, I guess that's fine, because everyone says, oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to work on this in post, and I'll deal with it there. And that's fine, I guess, but I mean, you can also actually go ahead and you can work with it yourself in camera by picking an actual white balance. And I usually purposefully choose white balances that are based on film. So, like, tungsten film is based on 3200 Kelvin, which would be something like this. 3200. That's very blue. I don't really like that. If you know Kodak Cinestill, Cinestill 800T, which is based on Kodak movie film, it'll probably give you something like this. And when you scan, it'll give you a different white balance overall. Now, let's see. 5500 is what some Kodak film is based on, and 5600 is what some other Kodak film is based on. And it's 100 degrees warmer, and you get more lively skin tones that arguably are more Portra, like Kodak Portra, that is. And then you would just mute it a bit, and then maybe you would do something else. I don't know. But either way, like, this is how most cameras will render the scene. And then you'd say, I just want that a little bit warmer, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work with it there. Okay, that's cool. But I still feel like that's very inefficient, and it doesn't really give you the most versatility for, whatever you're paying for your camera, because those RAW files are so versatile. So you can always change your white balance, that's especially since you're shooting RAW. But in order to make your workflow go faster, it's usually a good idea to actually, in this case, lock your white balance to say 5600. And then I can go ahead and I'm going to sync these files together with the white balance, just to show you guys what's going on. So they're populating, okay. And I'm going to choose and pick which files I want to work with. That one is okay. That one's a no. That one's a no. That one's a no. That one's, I guess I can work with that. I can work with that. No. Yes. No. No. I can work with that one. I can work with that one for sure. That one's kind of fun. Not really that one. That one's okay. That one I can kind of work with. Okay. So now what I'm going to say is I'm going to delete the rejected photos. And now, see, we actually have more lifelike skin tones here. So I'm going to work with this photo in particular. So now we have versus it was this. And as shot, that's what I actually shot it in. Sony, you can tell it to be at 5500 daylight, and it'll give you some other weird setting instead. I don't know why. Canon does the same thing. The only thing that actually holds its white balance, in my opinion, is Nikon, because I've shot with it, and whenever you say 5560, it always comes in at 5560, and it's gorgeous. So now, when it comes to actual editing of the image, I can go ahead and I can say, hey, let's work with camera portrait. So I'm choosing camera portrait style, and now it's giving you this really sort of Fujifilm-esque type of look. Maybe I can make this 5500 instead. So why am I saying Fujifilm? Fujifilm film, in my opinion, tends to go more towards green in terms of its tonality versus Kodak film, which is more purple, at least. So if I were to sit here and I were to mess with this tint a bit more, then that would be a little bit more in line with what Kodak would do, and this would be a little bit more in line with what Fujifilm would do. So I'm going to make that a little bit more in line with what Kodak would do, just like that over there. And then I'm going to say, okay, so that looks pretty good. But let's see camera light. Let's see what that does. Actually, I sort of like camera light more, so we're going to work with that. So we're working with camera light, and what I'm going to say is I want to notice, by the way, how I'm working from the bottom and going all the way up. I feel like that's generally the best way to work with Adobe Lightroom, and in Capture One there are different ways to do it because you go from panel to panel. But yeah, so a lot of people usually just sit here and they mess with this, and these affect everything overall in the image and don't try to affect specific things. Specific things are really what you want here. I'm going to sharpen just a bit. Not a lot at all. I'm at ISO 800. The Sony a7R III is more than good enough for that stuff. So yeah. So now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, okay, work on the luminance. So the red channel is affected there, right? So now we're going to saturate the reds just a bit. Now the orange channel affects her skin and also affects the shirt that she has. Interesting, because I feel like that's more salmon. I'm going to desaturate that just a bit, because a lot of that film, like Kodak Portra, is very desaturated. And a lot of people apparently do like that low contrast, desaturated look that's going on right now. And now yellow is affecting her scarf and also the background. So I'm going to get rid of that just a bit. Now, notice how you're sort of losing some detail in the highlights. You can deal with that later by actually dealing with the highlights panel later on, but right now we're trying to equalize and normalize out the color. Green, there is some green back there. I'll make this background a little bit more neutralized. Aqua, nothing really. Blue, I think her sunglasses, yeah. Now if I saturate the blue a bit, okay, cool. Purple, a little bit in the glasses, and magenta. Interesting, there's no real magenta. Okay, so now we have our image for the most part, and now I can get those details back from the highlights and the shadows, and now I could say, okay, fine, bring that back just a tad. Cool. And I'm going to lower the contrast a bit, just because I feel like it. I'm going to deepen the blacks to make it look sharper than it really is, and I'm just going to give it a touch of clarity. And now we get an image that's really, really nice. And it's rendering, it's taking longer because of the fact that I'm recording a video still too. But trust me, this is actually very sharp, or at least it looks really sharp on Capture One. So now I have all of these in mind. What I can do is I can say sync, and I can synchronize all of these edits to all of these images, and now I'm through and done with this a lot faster than I was before. So now I can say, I just want to crop this. I usually like squares, so I'm going to go with a square crop, like so. Maybe I'll go with that. Or maybe I'll say no to that image overall. No, that one's not bad. I do like that. That one's pretty good. That one I'll get rid of. That one I'll keep. That one's pretty good. And that one's okay. Yeah, I'll get rid of it. And now I say okay. Second culling. For those of you that have known me for years, I usually do 2 cullings with my images. I usually do a massive cull, and then I do a more refined cull. And that more refined cull I learned when I was shooting weddings for a while. But by doing this, you get better color usually, because I mean, film has really just been a standard for many years for photographers, and it's just a standard when it comes to actual color application, development, and all that stuff. So if I go through another set, let me go through the first session we did. So for example, there's this image right here, and then I wanted to try something a little different. I wanted to say, hey, let me try this in 3200. And of course, Sony would change it from 3200 to 3050. The other images, though, were shot at daylight, and I get this, sort of a more normalized color. This one, though, arguably can be more moody. So I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. I'm going to work with, no, I won't work with basic settings. But let me work with the blues over here, and the blues over here. And let me give this a vignette. Sort of like that. Let's get rid of these little things so I can see more of what's going on. And let's also make this more high contrast. And cool, I create a little bit more mood there. And that looks pretty fun. Versus if this was in 5500 daylight. I mean, you create a mood, but it's a significantly different mood than this. This is a lot more somber feeling. Now, if I were to put this in auto, it would give me something sort of in between, and I feel like that's very sterile. Versus, you know, the actual, like, mood that you're creating over here. And that's what I'm talking about here. Actually setting your own white balance gives you better full control over your creative vision in the end. And some people may say, oh, well, let me just do what I want. That's fine, but I still feel like when you go into shooting, you should try to have some sort of creative vision and intent, because that makes the images overall a lot better to begin with. And that's really about it, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys go ahead and you try this out yourself, but manually setting your white balance really does help a lot more. And for those people saying, I hate this, you really shouldn't be doing this, just give it a try. It's probably not going to hurt you, and you're probably going to see, oh, actually this is much better. Same way that a lot of people have said many other things, and they were trolls about it, and then suddenly they were like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. They started to realize that what I said for a while actually made a lot of sense. Alright guys, go ahead, try it out, experiment, let me know if you have any questions, and take care.